In this movie, we will see how to use JMP to carry out a two-sample hypothesis test. Here we are given the scenario that we have two pitchers. For each we observe 14 pitches. We are given their sample mean speed of their pitches. And we are also told that the population standard deviation for Wesley is 3, for Rodriguez is 7. So because we're given the population standard deviation, we will be using a z-test. And first we need to formulate what the hypothesis should be here. Let Wesley be pitcher 1, Rodriguez be pitcher 2. We want to check if Rodriguez pitches faster than Wesley. So when we conduct our hypothesis, we will set it up as a left tail test, where our alternative will be that the average speed of Rodriguez exceeds that of Wesley. So when we do mu1 minus mu2, we get a negative answer. And then the null is that Wesley pitches faster or equal to Rodriguez. So to set this up in JMP, we are given the summary stats. We are given our population standard deviation, and we're given the sample averages, and we are told that the sample size is 14. So we can go to sample index, tools, calculators, and we will click on two sample means. We are given summary stats. I'm going to choose the summary stats option. Now notice here, JMP's formulation is mu2 minus mu1, not mu1 minus mu2. So whatever value we put as sample 1, that will be what will be subtracted from our average of sample 2. So we can conduct the test this way. We can put in 1 for Wesley, 2 for Rodriguez, but what we will get is Rodriguez minus Wesley, so it will be a different direction of the test. To keep the convention consistent with JMP, we will just let Wesley be 2 and Rodriguez be 1. So we are doing a left tail test. So we will say mean 2 minus mu1 is less than the hypothesized value. But recall now that 2 will be our Wesley and 1 will be Rodriguez. So for Wesley, we have 86 and 3. So I can choose that option. We will type in sample mean as 86. Now we can type in 3 here for standard deviation. It asks us, are you given the population? Because we chose the z-test, it assumes that we know the population standard deviation, and this is where we will enter 3. And then for Rodriguez, we will enter our average 91 and then standard deviation as 7. And then the sample size in both cases is 14. You can enter 14 here. And then the next part is that we are testing it at alpha equals 1%. So I will change my level of significance to 1. So this is how a test gets constructed. Our z-score is minus 2.45. And the critical value given information and 14 sample size at 1%, alpha would be minus 2.32. Our p-value is 0.00970. So our p-value is lower than our critical value of 0.01. In this case, we will reject the null. There's enough evidence that our alternative hypothesis, which is mu1 minus mu2 is negative, is correct. And we can click on reveal the decision. It says reject the null hypothesis. So it's pretty straightforward to conduct a two-sample test. When we are given summary stats, we can choose those options correspondingly. In this video, we will conduct a two-sample test, but here we are given our data instead of given summary stats, and also we will still assume that we know the population standard deviation. So here the scenario is that we have to find hotels for a conference in one of the two cities. We have Atlanta and we have Houston. So we will again let Atlanta be 1, Houston be 2. and we will have data on these two cities. Their average hotel prices can be calculated from the data, and then we will make a determination that mean price of hotel in Atlanta is lower than the one in Houston. So we will first frame what hypothesis we are testing. Because it's not giving us the level of significance, we'll assume that to be 0.05. We will state the p-value and then we'll conduct the test. So Atlanta is 1, Houston is 2. We're saying that we want to, the finding that we are hoping to find or conclude is that Atlanta hotels are cheaper than Houston. So this would be an example of a left tail test again, where mu1 minus mu2 will be negative. So this time we are given the data. So the data is, so let's open up the file in JMP. So here we have two columns, Atlanta and Houston. Now to do a test about two population, the format that JMP accepts is where we have one column for our city or labels and then one column for data instead of having two columns spread out. So we will again go to our calculator. We will choose two sample means. This time we will just tell JMP that we have two samples in two columns instead of choosing summary stats because it is not in the right format. I'm going to click on two samples in two columns. Once we open that, it says which is the first sample, which is the second sample. Now here we can move Atlanta as first sample and Houston as second sample, but JMP will still treat as 2 minus 1, so it will be Houston minus Atlanta. If we had flip-flopped, it wouldn't really have made any difference. We click OK. So here we have Atlanta, Houston, and we have these observations. Now, just like in the case of summary stats, the format with hypothesis test in JMP is 2 minus 1. Our hypothesis is tested set up as 1 minus 2. So we will switch 1 to 2 and 2 to 1. Now there's a little trick here. Because Atlanta comes before Houston, Atlanta will always be considered level 1 and Houston level 2. So when we conduct the test, it will actually subtract the average price of hotels in Houston, and from it, it'll subtract the average price of hotels in Atlanta. So it'll be mu2 minus mu1, even though we want the setup to be mu1 minus mu2. So what we can do is we can actually reorder the values and then tell JMP that, well, actually Houston is our label 1, Atlanta is our label 2. And that is done by right-clicking on the column label. Then we will click on column properties and we will look at the option value order. And here we will just click on Houston and bump it up. Or we could have clicked on reversed over here. We would have gotten the same thing. So now Houston is level 1, Atlanta is level 2. And now we can conduct our hypothesis test. So we go back to the sample index, tools, calculators, we double click here. This time we can choose raw data because we have raw data. If we click OK, and it says what is the column containing the label, we'll move label to labels, and then we'll move data to data. Click OK. Now notice it still does 2 minus 1. However, Atlanta has become 2 and Houston has become 1. So we are still doing a left tail test. We'll choose this hypothesis. And there's one more option here. The problem says that because we have enough data, we can assume that these two are our population standard deviations. So we are not using these standard deviations. We will tell JMP that we know the population standard deviations. So again, Atlanta is 2. So I'll write the Atlanta standard deviation as 20 and 2, and then Houston as 25 and 1. So we do 20 and 25. So this will help us conduct a z-test. Our z-score is minus 1.8. Our critical value is minus 1.64. Our p-value is 0.0352. And we said our level of significance that we'll work with is 0.05 or 5% level significance, and we have a p-value which is lower than that. So this shows that there is only a 3% probability or 0.035 probability that our sample for which we have the data is coming from the population where the null is true. So we have enough evidence, we reject the null.